A monstrous creature was sliced to its demise. The Duke, concerned for his men, ordered an immediate check to ensure no one was injured. Reports soon confirmed that everyone was unharmed, much to his relief. He praised his soldiers for their hard work and ordered them to return to their duties. The Duke then surveyed the area. He had noted the individual who had felled the last flying beast, Cyan. Approaching him, the Duke inquired about Cyan's adjustment to the front lines. Cyan respectfully replied that he was learning new things every day, a response that surprised the Duke. He had expected his son to express a desire to return home quickly. Instead, he acknowledged that Cyan had endured much and expressed his pride in him. This unexpected praise caught Cyan off guard. Before departing, the Duke informed Cyan that he wished to discuss something important with him the next morning and asked him to visit his tent early. Cyan was taken aback by this uncharacteristic kindness from his father. As night fell, an eerie atmosphere settled over the camp. Suddenly, a monster with a long body emerged from the ground. Reacting quickly, Cyan managed to evade the creature. It was a deathworm, a gigantic beast with a tail end lined with sharp teeth, usually found deeper in the valley. Karam, observing the struggle, offered to take over, claiming her master might be in trouble. Cyan, however, was wary of her intentions, suspecting a hidden agenda. Karam denied any ulterior motives, promising to use the opportunity briefly before relinquishing control back to him. The deathworm's body exuded a faint smoke as it sustained shallow injuries, regenerating almost instantly. Karam pointed out the futility of attacking it superficially. Cyan realized that Karam was right, continuing like this would be pointless. It had already been a month since Cyan had joined the front lines, and despite having drunk the blood of countless demonic beasts, he still felt unsatisfied. The deathworm launched an attack, forcing Cyan to make a quick decision. He decided to play along with Karam's plan for the time being. Karam, eager to unleash her powers, activated the 9th form of her demonic sword manifestation, creating a thick fog. She aimed to tear through the deathworm's tough skin with a swift move, inflicting several deep wounds. Blood gushed from the deathworm, and Karam followed up with her next skill, the fog sword, 8 fluttering petals. Moving swiftly along the creature's body, she sliced it repeatedly, weakening it further. Blood sprayed the area as the deathworm's strength waned, and eventually, its body was severed into pieces. Meanwhile, the Duke's party came across a recently slain monster. Jokin noted the imposing mana surrounding the corpse and suspected it might be the work of a demon. The Duke, not willing to overlook the presence of a demon, ordered a thorough inspection of the area and immediate incineration of the corpse. Upon closer inspection, the Duke recognized the familiar traces of the sword. He felt a sense of déjà vu but was soon called by Elkin to inspect another site. Jokin raised his torch to reveal the corpse of a deathworm. The Duke, astonished, wondered who could have slain such a beast. He suspected it might be the work of an organization he knew of. Cyan, regaining control of his body, realized that allowing Karam to take over, even momentarily, had been a risky decision. Demonic sword manifestation allowed Karam to utilize her true powers but also gave her the potential to fully control Cyan if he let his guard down. He woke up feeling sore all over, a stark reminder of the previous night's battle. Cyan thought it was fortunate that he had consumed all that demonic beast blood. If this had happened a month ago, his body would have collapsed under the strain. Suddenly, Karam spoke up, claiming she had figured everything out. Cyan was puzzled, unable to follow her meaning. She elaborated, noting that while Cyan outwardly appeared to be a child, his behavior and speech were far from childish. Karam observed that his proficiency in handling her was too advanced for a first-timer. Additionally, he possessed an intimate knowledge of the Lima Valley's geography and wielded sword techniques resembling those honed over 30 years. Moreover, Cyan had mentioned that he had already died once. This led Karam to conclude that he was a regressor. Cyan looked at her incredulously and asked if it wasn't obvious when he said he had died before. He thought he had made it clear enough. Karam was taken aback and then angered, exclaiming that he hadn't explained anything. Cyan nonchalantly replied that he was too lazy to elaborate. Switching topics, Karam remarked that killing Cyan must have been difficult. She speculated on the events leading to his death, suggesting he might have been killed by the owner of Duran d'Arc, either in a duel or through betrayal. She leaned toward the latter, reasoning that Cyan looked at the holy sword with disdain. Karam deduced that Cyan's goal was likely revenge. She warned him that if she ever saw him falter, she would take over his body completely. Cyan smacked her on the head, reminding her to know her place, leaving Karam dizzy on the ground. In his mind, Cyan reflected that she hadn't changed at all, she was exactly the same as in his previous life. Leaving the tent, Cyan noticed a commotion around him. Emily greeted him hurriedly, and he asked if something had happened. Emily reported that high-level monsters had been sighted near the valley's entrance. Cyan felt a pang of nervousness, suspecting she might be referring to the deathworm. Emily added that it had been a long time since such monsters appeared near the camps. Cyan inquired if she knew anything else, specifically about any suspicious individuals or anything related to him. Before Emily could respond, Jokin called for Cyan, informing him that the Duke wanted to see him immediately. Feeling slightly apprehensive, Cyan thought of the situation as a nuisance. He hadn't been able to dispose of the corpses the previous night because soldiers had shown up unexpectedly. He gritted his teeth, worrying that his plan to enjoy a quiet life before entering the academy might be ruined. Arriving at the Duke's tent, he greeted his father, expecting him to realize he was the one who had slain the monsters. The Duke acknowledged his presence and asked him to sit. Cyan, looking serious and nervous, anticipated a difficult conversation. He racked his brain for a plausible excuse. The Duke began directly, asking Cyan what he had been doing the previous night. Cyan claimed he had gone to bed early due to exhaustion. The Duke found this suspicious, noting that the sword traces resembled Cyan's technique. However, he started to think he might be overanalyzing the situation. Cyan asked why the Duke was inquiring, which brought the Duke back from his thoughts. The Duke rationalized that it was impossible for someone as young as Cyan to have slain a deathworm. Seeing his father distracted, Cyan called for his attention. The Duke assumed Cyan was already aware of the previous night's events and decided to investigate further, suspecting the involvement of the secret organization, Mist. Cyan pretended this was his first time hearing about Mist. The Duke explained that Mist was an ancient organization, notorious for assassinating nobles under the guise of purification, leaving behind black fog wherever they operated. They had vanished 100 years ago, but the deathworm's corpse was shrouded in black fog, a mark of Eru, the god of darkness worshipped by Mist and the source of their power. The Duke speculated that Mist was responsible for the deathworm and other demonic beast killings. Cyan marveled at his father's ability to deduce the culprit despite Mist's last known activity being centuries ago. The Duke admitted they had no clear reason for Mist's sudden reappearance and advised Cyan to stay vigilant. Nonetheless, he planned to notify the Empire and conduct a thorough investigation. With that, Cyan believed his father had accepted the explanation. In his mind, the Duke found it implausible for someone as young as Cyan to be involved with such an ancient organization. He decided to end that line of inquiry and moved on. Turning to Cyan, he asked if he knew who was visiting them today. Cyan replied that he had heard His Majesty would be visiting, but didn't realize it was today. The Duke then requested a favor, which made Cyan slightly anxious. Moments later, the sound of a horn echoed through the camp, followed by the announcement of the Emperor's arrival. All the knights, including the Duke, knelt in respect. The Emperor dismounted his horse, calling the Duke by his first name in an excited tone. He tapped the Duke on the shoulder, urging him not to be so formal since they were old friends. When the Emperor's gaze fell on Cyan, he remained indifferent. Cyan introduced himself respectfully. The Emperor commented that a boy Cyan's age living in such an environment was evidence that the Duke's children were extraordinary. Cyan, remembering the favor his father had asked of him, displayed a goofy smile. Initially nervous, he realized the favor was simply to present himself as the Duke's son. In his past life, Cyan had always been confined to the mansion during the Emperor's visits. Now, he felt deeply touched by his father's trust. The Emperor then announced that he wanted to introduce someone as well. A young lady stepped out of the carriage and introduced herself as Erin Severus, the fifth princess of the Ushif Empire. Cyan recalled her as the tragic fifth princess. Earlier, the Duke had asked Cyan to escort Princess Erin for the day. Although Cyan was unsure how to handle it, the Duke assured him that all he needed to do was keep her company. He explained that the princess was the same age as Cyan, and they would likely see each other more often at the academy. Cyan remembered seeing her in his past life between classes. The Duke encouraged Cyan to become acquainted with the princess, hinting at the potential benefits of befriending someone from the royal family. Although Cyan internally resisted the idea, he understood his father's intentions. The Duke likely hoped for a friendship similar to his own with the Emperor. However, Cyan doubted this would happen with Princess Erin, given the future events only he knew about. Despite his annoyance, he decided to comply for now. As Princess Erin began to speak, Cyan focused his attention. She asked why the river was red. Cyan confirmed she was referring to the Blood River and explained that it was a stream running through the entire Limia Valley. The water turned red due to demonic beasts, who, when old or injured and unable to compete for survival, instinctively jumped into the river. Their corpses and bodily fluids decomposed in the water, tinted by the mana, giving the river its distinctive color. The princess's expression turned to shock and disgust upon learning this. Cyan casually added that demonic beasts also drank and bathed in the river, advising her to stay out of it due to its disgusting nature. The princess, still disgusted, asked what lay at the end of the river. Cyan replied that it led to the demon realm. The princess was extremely shocked and wanted to confirm if it was truly where demons lived. Seizing the opportunity to tease her, Cyan, with a mischievous grin, told her that if she followed the river, she might even meet the demon king. The princess was terrified after hearing that. In his mind, Cyan knew no rational person would actually follow the river to the demon realm. However, he found it entertaining to tease the princess. Suddenly, a bright light flared up, capturing everyone's attention. The princess, startled, asked what it was. Cyan explained that it was the signal from the 3rd century post in the west. A yellow light indicated approaching demonic beasts. The princess was taken aback by the presence of demonic beasts. Immediately, the duke issued an order to ensure the emperor's protection. He directed the Guardian Knight Division to accompany him to the 3rd century post. The emperor, addressing the duke by his first name, Willius, told him not to be so cautious. The duke was perplexed by this response. The emperor asked if the duke thought he had come for a leisurely stroll and, to underline his point, drew his sword. The duke sighed but acquiesced to the emperor's wishes. The emperor then commanded his knights to join the demonic beast raid, instructing them to focus solely on exterminating the beasts until the raid concluded. The duke also ordered Cyan to participate, to which Cyan readily agreed. The princess, concerned, asked Cyan if he could really fight the demonic beasts. He assured her that he could, mentioning that he often provided support from the back. He then advised the princess to retreat to the shelter for safety. Unexpectedly, the princess insisted on accompanying him. Internally, Cyan was baffled by her insistence. She argued that they were the same age, so she should be allowed to come too. With a bored expression, Cyan explained that battles were dangerous and not a playground. Despite his warning, the princess persisted. Growing increasingly annoyed, Cyan called for Jokin. Jokin appeared promptly, stating that he would take over from the royal knights and escort the princess to safety. He courteously invited the princess to come with him. The princess looked at Cyan, feeling affronted, and accused him of impudence for daring to treat her, a princess, in such a manner. Cyan stepped closer to her, his eyes wide and his tone firm. He told her that her stubbornness could cost the lives of dozens of knights. He emphasized that in battle, a split-second decision could mean the difference between life and death. In a menacing tone, he asked if she could take responsibility for all those lives. The princess's eyes welled up with tears. As Cyan turned to leave, he told her to return to the shelter if she was going to cry like a child. The princess, Jokin, and her maid stood there, taken aback. Meanwhile, the knights encountered a massive slime-like monster that had already devoured several humans. The duke commanded them to hold their ground. As they neared the creature, he ordered them to halt and reform their lines. He then commanded everyone to protect his majesty and to slay every single monster, sparing none.